So at the beginning of this video, I want to give a hi, kitty. I'm trying to do something here. Shoo. Okay then. Quick disclaimer. I want to say that even though, as you read the title, this is a World War II German knife, or based on anyway, I do not in any way support or condone anything they did, which should be obvious, but, you know, today's world, you probably just want to give that disclaimer. And you're back. Oh, this is my cat. He likes being in the way. Now that I have the rough forging done, I'm going to take my angle grinder, give the handle a little more the shape that I want, of course give the blade a little better shape, and then of course put the bevels on it, and then go to my little belt sander and do some cleanup with that. different plans for this evening, but, well, you know, forging a knife guard it is. My basic plan is take an extra chunk of leaf spring, and I'm going to forge it into my guard. Usually I would just take a piece and cut it, or, you know, minimal stuff, but since this is a historical build, I'm going to keep it as close to the original as I can. Of course, since this isn't, you know, a USK bar, I don't think people are going to get too picky on the details. But basically, I'm going to forge this down, and I have a spot in the front that kind of narrows and bends down, and then I have a little spot that kind of hooks up in the back. You'll see it when it's done. And of course I have to cut and file out a slot. Okay, so I have the guard, well, filed to fit the shape. I also have a couple of scales. I just cut them from a piece of hickory. It was a 1x2, manually sawed in half down the middle. Hot dog bun style, I guess. That's a real pain. But anyway, I have it clamped in place so I can drill some 3/4 inch holes for my brass pins. And what I'm gonna do, since this is gonna be a little more complicated than the way I usually do it, but I'm gonna drill my holes, then I'm going to sand this as close to shape as I can, mostly just kind of around the guard because I want the guard to be sanded perfectly. Then I'm going to etch the guard in acid because I want it to be as dark as I can, which is why I used spring steel as opposed to just mild steel. And I'm also going to clean up this blade a little bit, just, you know, hand sand it, get it nicer. Probably won't film that because hand sanding is kind of boring. And then heat treat it, and then I'm going to also etch it as well, but not as much as I'm going to etch this, if that makes sense. Basically, sand these to where they're the same after I drill the holes, then sand this, etch it, firmly attach that with epoxy, finish that up after that's etched. Yeah, it's a process. So that was a bigger pain than I wanted it to be, but I got them on. They're not glued yet, but that'll happen. Of course, it ended up cracking again. Problem with using hickory, it's why I often use oak. It cracks, but it has a little more give, so it doesn't crack as much, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, so what I'm gonna do now is I'll probably just hand sand this a bit, get some of the, you can kind of see the lines, get that off a little bit more. Nothing too exciting, but then I'm going to heat treat and temper it. Excuse me. So that way I can yeah, glue on my handle scales, sand it the shape, and of course, you know, clean them up to make them look really nice. And then I'm gonna have a pretty nice blade. Okay, so I kind of apologize for the lighting at the moment. I'm in my inside workstation, and I don't have very good lighting over here. Sort of working on it. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some JB Weld and just attach my scales, also using brass pins. What I'll do is I'll put JB Weld on the tang here, then I'll stick this on, shove one of the brass pins through, with JB Weld on the end of that, which will glue them to the inside. Since my lighting is terrible, I'm not going to film that, but that's pretty basic what you do. Just attach epoxy to everything you need to glue together and clamp it. Make sure you clamp it. That's very important. And that's my combat knife. The etching on it didn't turn out quite as well as I'd hoped. You can kind of see, there you go, where it kind of wiped off when I was trying to dry it. I'm still kind of experimenting with it, because again, I'm pretty new to etching, but it kind of gives it a more worn look, which I kind of like. The guard etched a little better, and I think it turned out pretty well. I think it kind of sits a little farther forward, and I should have hooked it a bit more, but still looks pretty good. And I also want to say I've seen online that these are also labeled as boot knives. So if anyone comments that it's a boot knife, I've seen it labeled both ways. But my main thing is this seems a bit big for a boot knife. I mean, the boots that I usually wear, it would fit, but they also go up to about my knees. So that's a completely different story. But anyway, hope you enjoyed or learned something. Still want to make a scabbard or something for this, because I think it'd be really cool to carry. It's a nice shape and feels really comfortable in hand, but it's a simplistic handle, and usually they feel about the best.